Hey y'all, it is week 2 of the Every Bit Counts Challenge. And if you're not familiar, this is hosted by Jessica at Three Rivers Homestead. And she's challenging us to preserve something every day in the month of August. And it doesn't have to be just canning, it can be canning. It can also be dehydrating, freeze drying, even just putting something up in your freezer. So I am up to the challenge. I have got so much stuff coming out of the garden and I'm trying to use up the rest of my cucumbers. I had to pull my cucumbers out, but I've got a bunch left to do, so I am going to ferment some pickles in a crock. I've never done that before, so I'm excited to show you how I did that. And also I'm going to make some spaghetti sauce. I've never canned the whole thing with the mushrooms, the garlic, all that. So I'm excited to bring that to you. And right now I've got some with meat that I'm canning on the stove. That's going. So I've got a dehydrator here full of peppers. There's just a lot going on. And I'm also gonna dehydrate some skin. So if you have tomatoes that you've canned, do not throw away the skins because you can dehydrate those and make them into powder. So lots of exciting things going on. I've got lots more to share with you throughout the weeks and the month of August. So I'll turn you around. Let's get started. Okay, y'all, first project today is some bread and butter pickles. I've got 10 cups of cucumbers, 4 medium onions, 1/2 cup of canning and pickling salt, and I put over the top. And then I covered it with some filtered water, and I'm going to put it in the refrigerator and let it sit for about 2 hours. And then we'll bring it out. Let those sit and drain. While it drains, I'm going to work on the brine. It's 3 cups of white vinegar, 2 cups of granulated sugar, 2 tablespoons of mustard seed, 1 teaspoon celery seed, and 1 teaspoon of ground turmeric. I've got everything mixed together, and I'm going to go ahead and stir it and bring it to a boil. Now I've got all the water drained off, so now I'll put it back in the brine. I brought it up to a boil, and now it's time to fill the jars. It said a 1/2 inch generous headspace, so I'm going to fill the jar with the cucumbers and onions, and then fill it up to 1/2 inch headspace with the brine. Then I'll get all the air bubbles out, and then I'll wipe the rim of the jar to make sure there's nothing going to interfere with the seal, and then I'll put them back in the canner. Okay, I've got 9 beautiful jars of these bread and butter pickles. I cannot wait to open up a jar. I have this crock that my sister gave me, so I'm going to try and ferment some of these pickles whole. I love a good whole pickle, so I will have that recipe and the brine recipe linked down below in the description box. All it said was to cut the blossom end off, so I washed the crock really good, and I've stacked my cucumbers in there, and then I'm going to pour that brine over the top. It's just salt and water. I mixed it up in the mason jars, and I'm just going to pour it over the cucumbers and make sure that it is covering every bit of the cucumbers. You don't want it floating up to the top. I did put some dill in there from my herb garden, but I didn't have enough dill. I would put that, or even put more seeds in those. I didn't put as much as I probably should have, and I didn't have any garlic, so I would put garlic in there too. And I'm just covering it up to the top and adding my glass weights in there. You want everything way down. You don't want anything up above the brine. And on this one, you can put the water right there, and it makes a seal. So I'm just going to put the lid on there, and I'm going to wait probably 3 or 4 days, and then we'll try one. Okay, these are after 5 days. These were amazing. They were still crunchy, even though they really needed some more garlic flavor and some more dill in there. This is something I will definitely do again. Today's project is some spaghetti sauce, and I've just washed my tomatoes and scored them on the bottom of them so they will peel really easily when I put them in the boiling water. And these are some beautiful heirloom tomatoes that I bought. I sadly didn't grow these, but I've got some boiling water here, and I'm just going to put the tomatoes in the boiling water, and then I'll take them out after about 30 to 40 seconds and put them in an ice bath so they'll cool off really fast. Okay, I removed the peels, I took out the core, and I chopped them into quarters, and now I am going to boil them for 20 minutes uncovered, and then I'm going to run them through the food mill. Okay, after the tomatoes cook, I let them cool a bit, and then I ran them through the KitchenAid strainer, and I used my measuring cup to catch all the seeds and peels. and it goes through there and gets all that stuff out, and it leaves you with some gorgeous sauce. Okay, I'm going to saute the vegetables. I've got a pound of mushrooms, a cup of chopped green pepper, 5 cloves of garlic, 1 cup of chopped onion, and I've got 1/4 cup of vegetable oil, and I'm going to just cook those until they're tender. All right, now that my vegetables are all softened, I'm going to add that back to the tomato sauce. Now I'm going to add the remaining ingredients: 4½ teaspoons salt, 2 tablespoons oregano, 4 tablespoons minced parsley, 2 tablespoons black pepper, and 1/4 cup brown sugar. And then I'm just going to mix that together. All right, then you just want to bring that to a boil, and then you'll simmer it until it gets reduced by half. And that takes a long time, but don't cover it up. Just let it cook uncovered until you like the consistency. If you like a thinner sauce, you can cook it longer, but this took about 4 or 5 hours. All right, it took about 4 hours, but now it is reduced by half, so now we're going to can it. Okay, I've got my jars hot and ready. I usually use quart jars or pint jars, but for sauces, I always do a quart, and especially with spaghetti sauce. So I'm using a quart jar. My jars are hot and ready. I've got my funnel, and I like to take my measuring cup because it's got that spout on it, and I think it makes it a lot easier to put the sauce in there. Okay, so I'll leave a 1-inch headspace. I'll get all the air bubbles out with my tool there and wipe the lid clean. Okay, I pressure can these for 25 minutes since they're quarts. You can also do pints for 20 minutes. 4 quarts and a half pint out of that, and I also canned some Mexican corn, and that's in another video, and I'll have that linked down in the description box. All right, when you peel your tomatoes, don't throw them away. Put them in a baggie and put them in the fridge, and when you're ready, just put them on the dehydrator, because that's what I'm going to do. I just did drain them out a little bit so they wouldn't be so wet where they would dry a little bit faster. So I'm just going to load them on my dehydrator, and about 24 hours they'll be nice and dry, and I can put them in a jar, or I can powder them up and make some tomato powder. All right, now I'm going to can some bone broth. I've got these beef bones out of the freezer, and I'm going to put them on a tray and bake them at 400 for about 30 minutes. Okay, the bones are out. So I turned the oven down to 225. Now I'm going to take all these bones and the drippings and put them in my pan here. I even scraped down the pan with this and got a lot more off of that pan, so I can have all those delicious juices in here. All right, I have 2 bay leaves. Can't talk. I did 2 teaspoons of salt. Okay, I'm putting, it calls for 1 large onion. I don't have 1 large onion. I've got like 3 smaller onions, so that's what I put in there. And 3 cloves of crushed garlic. I know this is going to be so good. I mean, how can it go wrong with all these delicious flavors? All right, I think we're ready to go in the oven. This sounds just as good as it looks, y'all. Can you just hear that? Okay, so what I did was I browned the bones in the oven. I cooked it for 8 hours on 220, and then I cooked it for 8 more hours at 180. So I did up the temperature just a little bit while I went out to the garden. So now it's ready to go to the next step. So what I'm going to do is strain it all out. So I'm going to remove the bones and run it through a strainer or a colander and get some of the big chunks out. Y'all, that is some beautiful broth right there, but it's got a lot of fat in it. So what I'm going to do is put it in the refrigerator and let it sit until all that fat congeals, and it'll make a solid form on the top, and then we'll take that off, and then we'll heat it up and can it. Okay, I had it in the refrigerator for a couple of hours, and the fat just peels right off, but I'm not going to throw that away. I'm going to save that and maybe roast some potatoes in there, and that is going to be so delicious. But I'm just going to take this fat off, and I'll heat it up, and then we can can it. Just look at it. It looks like a big, beefy bowl of Jell-O. And it's gelatinous like that, you know it's going to be good. All right, I'm going to cook this up or heat it up. You want at least 2 quarts, so if you don't have 2 quarts, you can add enough water to make it 2 quarts. So I had to add a little bit more filtered water, and I have got 4 jars heating up. I'm just using pints, but you can use quarts if you'd like, and I've got that heated up in my canner. You want to pressure can this in a pressure canner. All right, so as soon as this comes to a boil, we'll be able to can it, but I want to show you this gorgeous dinner that I made. It's coming up in a video in a couple days that I'm making things with Jiffy corn mix. You've got to watch that because it's delicious. All right, it's time to can it up, and I broke my measuring cup, so I'm having to use the glass Pyrex one that I bought on Amazon, so I hope I don't break that, so I've got to be really gentle with that. But I'm just going to fill this up to 1-inch headspace, and then I'll get out all the air bubbles, and then I'll wipe the rim of the jar and get these canned up. It only made 3 jars, but you have to have 4 when you're pressure canning, so I just took one of the jars and took an old lid and put some water in there, so that way I'll have some sterilized water on my shelf if I need it. But I just pressure canned this for 20 minutes, and it was beautiful. And I've got 3 jars, and all 3 of them sealed. So I can't wait to open up a jar of this to make some soup during the winter time or some stew. It's going to be delicious. I hope y'all enjoyed the video. I want to thank y'all so much for watching, and especially for last week's video. It just went crazy, and I've got so many more viewers, and I want to thank y'all so much for watching and subscribing. And I thought I would introduce myself. I am a wife and a mother and a grandmother. I quit my job of 19 years to stay home with my 2 grandsons, and now they're in school, sadly, so I don't get to watch them or see them as much. But I also have a little grandson, so I watch him, and he is just a sweetheart. So I am just enjoying the stay-at-home life and watching my grandson and getting my garden done and getting canning done and all these projects, especially this week, because I don't have any kids to watch. My little grandson is going to the beach, so I've got all week by myself. So I hope I can get some more projects out for you, and maybe even have some during the week instead of just posting on Sunday. So I'm excited to share with you some of the projects I've got going on. So I hope y'all have a wonderful week, and I'll see y'all in the next video.